received for the first time some of the detail that occurred.
After a nearly year-long investigation, the January 6th committee is ready to share its findings with the American people.
We're live in Washington, D.C. with what to expect tonight on what led up to the attack on our nation's capital.
These hearings will be a chance for the country to come together, to rally around the truth and unite around the rule of law.
Some severe thunderstorms possible over southeast Colorado. I'll let you know if any strong storms will hit the Denver area.
And dangerous on the water.
If you have that water pushing you up against something, it doesn't matter how strong you are.
What's different with Colorado water levels that already is making 2022 a treacherous year?
When you have that entire force of water pushing you over, it's not a place you want to be.
In just 1 hour, the public will hear the first findings from the committee tasked with investigating the insurrection at our nation's capital.
More than 1,000 people have been interviewed, and a few of those witnesses will return for tonight's public hearing.
The House Select Committee says it will reveal never-before-seen footage of the riot and highlight the planning that led up to January 6th. Tonight, we are going in depth on the hearings.
We begin with ABC's Ike Ajachi on Capitol Hill with the latest. Ike?
That's right. In about just an hour, the committee says it will show Americans substantial new evidence just to make clear how close our democracy was to collapsing. Tonight, after almost a year's worth of compiling evidence from over 1,000 closed-door interviews and 100,000 documents, the House Select Committee investigating the January 6th attack on the Capitol is now ready to show its work. The committee says it has hours of never-before-seen footage of that deadly day, including live witnesses and videotaped testimony from Donald Trump's daughter, Ivanka, and her husband, Jared Kushner, who both had senior roles in his administration. Also being shown, new footage from documentary filmmaker Nick Quested, who was embedded with the Proud Boys before and during the violent insurrection. The committee's goal, to document the horror of that day and highlight what they claim is former President Trump's failure to do anything to stop it. Instead, the group alleges for months Trump laid the groundwork for the attack by repeatedly spreading baseless lies that the 2020 presidential election was stolen from him.
I believe that tonight will be sort of an opening of the narration, the narrative of what happened as an assault on our democracy.
Some Democrats feel the hearings will energize their voters, reminding them what's at stake ahead of the November midterm elections. Republicans, like House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, dismissing the Select Committee's work, accusing the panel of targeting Trump and other Republicans at a time when they should be focused on economic issues.
I don't see any primetime hearings set for gas price, for battling inflation.
It's important to note this is not a legal proceeding, but ABC's chief legal analyst Dan Abrams says the hearing could still have legal ramifications.
Any information that they gather that shows potential criminality could certainly be used in any future proceedings.
Now, this is just the first of 7 hearings, and the committee says they expect to finish presenting their evidence by the end of the month.
And I know it was a busy day on Capitol Hill today. Democrats and Republicans holding press conferences ahead of the hearing. Were there any significant moments out of those?
There were. Nancy Pelosi, you saw Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi really test the waters out there and tell people that they are just moments away of seeing substantial evidence that will really give the American people an idea of what happened that day. But on the flip side, we saw House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy come out and actually have another contentious back and forth with our Jonathan Karl. Karl asked him flat out if he believed Joe Biden is the legitimate winner of the 2020 election. Minority Leader McCarthy failing to answer that question yet again, playing into former President Donald Trump's baseless claims that the 2020 election was stolen from him. Back to you.
Ike Ajachi reporting for us tonight from our nation's capital. Thank you so much, Ike.
More than 800 people now have been charged in connection with the January 6th attack. And today, FBI agents raided the home of Michigan gubernatorial candidate Ryan Kelly. And he was taken into custody on misdemeanor charges and has since been released on bond. Also, a dozen Coloradans facing charges connected to the insurrection. Denver 7 political reporter Megan Lopez is live with where these cases stand now. Megan?
Yeah, the Coloradans who flew to D.C. to participate in the protest and subsequent insurrection came from all over the state, really. About a dozen were arrested and charged. Most recently, Jennifer Horvath was arrested in May and charged with disorderly conduct, among other things. Her boyfriend, Glenn Wesley Croy, pleaded guilty in August to charges as well. Now, Avery Carter McCracken is accused of punching 2 D.C. police officers at the Capitol. He faces numerous felonies, including assault of a police officer. Thomas Hamner is pleading guilty to charges like resisting arrest and civil disorder and should be sentenced in September. Hunter Palm is accused of entering Speaker Nancy Pelosi's office and then urging others to hack into a locked laptop. Pictures show him right here sitting with his feet on a conference table in the Speaker's office. It was a family member who identified him to authorities. Now, Robert Gieswein is also facing charges for intimidating police with a baseball bat and then spraying aerosols at him. He's been ordered to remain in jail until his trial. And one of the well-known names of this group is former Olympic swimmer Cleet Kellner. He pleaded guilty back in September to obstruction of Congress and has agreed to fully cooperate with the investigation. Now, the FBI has posted the photos of 532 people on its website that were allegedly involved in that insurrection. Many have been arrested. Many others still have not been identified. The FBI is still asking the public to send them tips if you recognize someone in those photos. I'm live. Megan Lopez, number 7.
Still so troubling all these months later. Megan, thank you very much. Nearly all the major television networks, including ABC, will carry the hearings in full tonight, except for Fox News. Fox News says it will cover tonight's House Select Committee hearing as, quote, news warrants, and is keeping to its primetime schedule. Fox will allow its affiliates to take the hearings in full, and they will also be broadcast live on Fox Business News.
And there are 2 more hearings set for next week on Monday and Wednesday at 8 a.m. our time. The January 6th committee hasn't announced a formal schedule for the rest of the hearings, but there could be as many as 8 more throughout the end of the month. The final hearing will be sometime in September, right before the November midterm elections. We will have full in-depth coverage of tonight's primetime hearing right here on Denver 7 News tonight at 10. And you can also get the very latest on the denverchannel.com and the free Denver 7 Plus streaming app. Developing tonight, 3 people have been killed and 1 person has been critically injured at a manufacturing plant in Maryland. A trooper who responded to the scene was injured as well. A suspect was injured and taken into custody.
2 Republican advisors have been appointed in Mesa County to oversee the upcoming elections. Former Colorado Secretary of State Wayne Williams and current Mesa County Treasurer Sheila Reiner will assist and advise County Elections Director Brandy Brantz for the June 28th primary. Now, this comes nearly a month after a judge indicted Mesa County Clerk Tina Peters from overseeing her own elections. She's accused of an election equipment security breach. Peters also, by the way, is running for the Republican nomination for Secretary of State. Now, Colorado Secretary of State Jenna Griswold has also appointed a supervisor to oversee Elbert County's elections. That clerk there in that county is also being investigated for a 2021 protocol breach.
Denver 7 Investigates has confirmed that Denver Airport CEO Phil Washington is set to be President Biden's nominee to lead the Federal Aviation Administration. The story was first reported by the Seattle Times. Washington was appointed as DIA's head back in July of last year. The White House is expected to make the announcement on the president's nomination in the coming days.
Well, new at 5, Denver has moved into red or high risk for COVID-19 at the community level. That is CDC's highest level. Now, other counties now in this high risk category include Arapahoe, Adams, Douglas, Jefferson, and Pitkin counties. Now, Boulder, Jackson, and Broomfield counties were in the high category last month. In places under high risk, the CDC recommends wearing masks indoors in public places. We reached out to CDPHE about all these new counties, including Denver, moving into the red, and we're still waiting to hear back.
And it is that time of year. The weather's getting hotter. People are going to Colorado waters to try and cool off.
This year, though, the waters are more dangerous than we've seen in the past. Denver 7's Bayon Wayne explains why.
Making sure you're safe in the water is really important all year long, but especially during the summer with more people in the water, and especially this month. Here's why.
Snow is now melting and running downhill.
That's typical for June, but Colorado saw snow events this year later than usual.
It is possible that this year we're going to see a couple peaks in the river as that late snow melts off.
And the late runoff means more dangers for those recreating in the water.
There's generally going to be more debris in the water. It's going to be higher velocity, so it's going to be moving faster, moving more debris, downriver.
This time of year also means colder water. Wearing a wetsuit or something thermal is highly recommended.
It's pretty quick to start to go hypothermic, and that's not a place you ever want to be.
In 2020, a record 34 drownings were reported in Colorado. By early June of that year, there were 8 total drownings reported. So far this year, there have already been 13 drownings, sadly putting Colorado on pace for another record year.
Most of our drownings are someone who's not wearing a life jacket.
So if it isn't obvious already, the #1 safety tool to have in the water is a safety vest. And when you're out shopping for one, you want to make sure that the vest is U.S. Coast Guard certified and that it's the right size. One way to tell is if you can't pull the vest up and over your head. Now, experts also say that attaching a whistle to your vest is very important to alert anybody nearby the water in case you're in trouble. Now, if you're one of those who white water rafts a lot or kayaks a lot in the water, experts say to attach a knife to your vest in case you become entangled in anything in the water.
And you can be the world's strongest swimmer, and if you get sucked into certain parts of this river, you are not going to be able to just swim your way out of it.
Bayan Wang, Denver 7.
Lives depend on the struct.
A Longmont center that helps Coloradans with disabilities now needs your help.
The center's horse trailer is stolen, making it nearly impossible to provide therapy to those in need.
We need help really desperately for the health and welfare of our horses.
Plus, a familiar face could be part of the new group buying the Broncos.
And the Avs are finally back on the ice, focused on the Stanley Cup Finals, as head coach Jared Bednar weighs a tough choice for Game 1.
I mean, it's a tough decision. I mean, there'll be conversations about it. We'll make a decision and go from there.
Yeah, it's all taken care of 100%.